This is gonna be, as you already know, my favorite romance books of all time. And coming from somebody that pretty much only reads romance, this is a big deal for me, which is why it took me so long to make this video, because I just kept thinking, like, if I read one more book, what if that one's my favorite and I want to add it to the video? The more books that I read though, I realized that these are my favorites for a reason. I have some recent favorites, I have some old favorites, but they're just basically my all-time favorite romance books. These are the books that pretty much made me believe in true love, made me believe in soulmates, and pretty much gave me the stupidest, highest expectations possible for what love should look like. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy these book recommendations. But before we get started, you already know I have to give a big shout out to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. You guys have heard me talk about them before, but if you don't know, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and to help readers find books they love. Their team vets hundreds of books each month, and they give readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release titles. That way you know for a fact that you're spending more time reading and less time researching. Book of the Month is completely risk-free, so you can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. They have the best price for new release hardcover fiction, and this month if you use the code GOMAY, you can get your first book for only $9.99. And as always, I'm going to share with you guys the books that I received this month, starting with this book. I'm actually really genuinely excited for, because I have seen this book and heard about this book for a couple months now. This is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Okay, this is another good one. You guys already know that rom-com covers just get me. This is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Next we have Breathless by, oh, it's a thriller. Okay, wait, this also looks really good. This is Yerba Buena by Nina LaCure. Okay, Nina, look at that. Next we have Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. We have a novel of Peter Pan. This is called Darling Girl. So if you haven't checked out Book of the Month, definitely do. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video, and let's get started with my favorite romance books of all time. I just want to show you guys the books that I'm picking from right now, but like I don't even know where to start. Just kidding, I know exactly what I'm starting out with, and I'm starting out with my rom-coms because they're my absolute favorite. Rom-coms, I go through them so quick, because from the very beginning you're hooked, because they're funny and they're witty and they're cute and romantic, and it just like it makes for such a good book. And I feel like I go through them so quickly that it like keeps me motivated to keep reading. I feel like I've only talked about this book in one maybe book video, which is so wrong of me to do. This book just has everything you could possibly want in a rom-com, and I mean it. Like if this was the blueprint for all rom-coms, I'd be okay with it. It has workplace romance, it has enemies to lovers, it has enemies to friends to lovers. There's also fake dating. Like literally every single trope you can think of is in this book, and Elena Armas did such an amazing job with every single trope and doing it just perfectly. Catalina is the main girl, Aaron is the guy. They've worked together for years, and he is just really good at making her really mad. There's a lot of tension there. They've had this really big dislike for each other for years. Catalina finds herself in a little pickle because she's about to go back to Spain, which is where she's from, for her sister's wedding. So she's gonna see her family, her old friends, her ex-boyfriend, and she doesn't have a date for the wedding. So she's like struggling to find a date. That is until Aaron Blackford himself offers to be her date. And of course, she's like, no, like why am I gonna take you as like my date? Like why are we gonna pretend to be dating when we've hated each other like all this time? Like why are you offering to do that for me? She keeps saying no, but she's like, you know what, I don't have a date, it's getting closer and closer, whatever, let's do it. So she pretty much just tells him like, okay, let's do this. They go to Spain, they're pretending to date, they're pretending to have this like really good relationship. The line of pretending and real life starts blurring a little bit, and they don't know if like what they're saying and what's happening. Is it pretending, is it not pretending? I'm gonna stop explaining it there, but this is honestly what such a good rom-com, like such a good like romance book, such a good rom-com. I'm talking about it so much that I like want to reread it. I'm probably going to, but yeah, this is amazing, and if you haven't read it, you definitely have to. Next, I'm talking about The Unhoneymooners. You guys already know this is one of my favorites. I absolutely adore this book. This book is about Olive and Ethan, and Olive's sister is dating Ethan's brother. Pretty much the entire time that their siblings have been dating, they've hated each other. They can't stand each other. It's been like 3 years, still can't stand each other. But the book starts where their siblings get married, and something happens at the wedding where like everybody eats really bad shrimp, I think it was. So everybody gets sick. Literally every single guest, the bride, the groom, they get sick. They're throwing up all night. They have food poisoning, the whole thing. And of course, the only two people that don't get sick are Olive and Ethan. So Olive's sister asks her like, hey, I have this like whole honeymoon situation. It's non-refundable. Obviously we can't go. We're super sick. So what if you and Ethan go and enjoy this totally free trip? And obviously you're not going to say no to a free trip. So they both agree, but the catch to that is that they have to act like the bride and the groom. But honestly, it's funny, it makes sense, and you're rooting for them the entire time. I love this book. Last rom-com is, of course, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Honestly, when a book is this good, it like pains me to describe it because I'm just like, oh my god, like I need the perfect explanation so you can understand how good this book is. This book is about Alex and Poppy, and they have been best friends since their very first day of college. The really cute thing about their friendship and the really cute thing about this book is that every single summer for a decade now, they have taken a summer trip. However, when the book starts, you see that they had a falling out. So they had this fight and they stopped talking to each other or stopped talking as frequently. Poppy realizes that she has everything she could want in life, but the one thing that she wants the most is to go on her annual trip with Alex, which she hasn't spoken to in a while. She expects him to say no, but he actually says yes, and she realizes that this has to be the perfect trip because she's trying to get the friendship back and she's trying to get the relationship back, and this might be the only way to do it. I adore this book and the couple and the characters, and yeah. Okay, next book is one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely had to put this book in here. I was not going to miss an opportunity to rave about this book. This is not a rom-com. This is not a fairy tale, happily ever after type of book. This is one of the most beautifully written, realistic, painful, heart-wrenching, heartwarming, all in one type of book. The cool thing about this book though is that it's such a quick read that you get so much like emotion so quickly. Like I remember being in like chapter 2 and I was like, this is gonna be a good one. This book is about Connell and Marianne, and they share one of the most complex relationships I think I've ever read about. She is complete outsider, like just the complete definition of an outsider. That's who she is in high school, and Connell is part of like the super popular group in high school. So the relationship starts in high school, but the book takes you through their like relationship and friendship and everything that happens to them throughout like 10 years. You read about the personal struggles that each of them have to go through, but the constant thing and constant person that's always in their life is each other. I will say the ending of this book is unlike anything I've ever read before, but it's so true to the story itself that you can't complain. Okay, next I'm talking about my favorite series of all time. If I'm being honest, this might be the only completed series that I've read. Other than like the Hunger Games in middle school, this is the Maid series by Daniel Laurie, and I know there's like a 4th or 5th book coming out, which I'm super excited about, but the first 3 books of the series are The Sweetest Oblivion, Maddest Obsession, and The Darkest Temptation. But this is a mafia love story. I know when I hear mafia love story, I don't automatically think of like a super romantic type of book, but honestly all I can say is that Daniel Laurie did it right with these books right here. So all 3 of the books and all characters in the books are all connected, so it's like the same world, same sort of characters, but you dive into a different couple in each book. This one is about Nico and Elena, and Elena is like the biggest sweetheart in the world. Her dad is part of the mafia, so she has to keep her composure, has to look presentable, has to look perfect at all times, but the only person that she finds herself really letting her guard down and really being her authentic self is with Nico, and Nico just happens to be the guy that's about to marry her sister. Okay, Maddest Obsession is my favorite out of all 3 books. I absolutely adore this book. I've read it twice already. This one is about Christian and Gianna. Gianna is a part of the whole mafia world, and Christian is actually an FBI agent that's working with the mafia. So he's like in the mafia world, but also in like the regular people world. Christian is like written out to be like the super composed, just super put together perfectionist type guy, and the only chaos that he really craves in his life is Gianna. This one's really different than the first 2 because this one's about the Russian mafia instead of the Italian mafia. This one also takes place in Russia, and it's about Mila and Ronan. Ronan is like the head of the Russian army or Russian mafia, whatever the fuck, and Mila is from the US, but she goes to Russia to find out all of her dad's secrets because she's been realizing for a while that her dad is hiding this like other life, and the life that he was hiding is that he's also part of the Russian army or Russian mafia. She goes to Russia and she basically meets Ronan there, and the first impression that she gets from him is completely different to who he actually is, and it ends up being that he is the enemy of her dad. The only reason I'm including the whole series in this video is because it just makes more sense to read it together, but my only favorite one that I will include in my favorite romance books is The Maddest Obsession, because I just love the way that their relationship comes together and the way that it's written and just everything about it I really liked, and for it being a mafia love story I ended up really liking it. Okay, next book is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you guys watch any of my book videos, you already know that my favorite author is Taylor Jenkins Reid. Anything she writes, even if it's like on a napkin at a restaurant, I am guaranteed to love it. It doesn't matter how much pain I felt throughout this book, this is still one of my favorite romance books I've ever read. This book is basically about Emma and Jesse, and they are high school sweethearts. They get married, they move out of their town, they move to California, California. They're living their dream life. They're in their late 20s. They've been together for like 9 years, and just when they feel like their life couldn't get any better, something horrible and tragic happens, which is Jesse is on a work trip and he's on a helicopter when his helicopter goes down and goes missing and is never found. So his body's not found, helicopter's not found, so he's basically just presumed dead, and Emma has to deal with that. And it talks about like her grief and what she's feeling after losing the one person that really understood her the most. But she basically makes the decision to move back into her hometown with her family. A couple years into living in her hometown again, that is when she meets Sam. And yeah, so Sam and her, they begin a relationship, and after thinking that like nothing was going to be able to make her happy again after losing Jesse, she finds herself falling in love again with Sam. Her and Sam end up getting engaged, and right when she's like living her second chance at happiness, she gets a phone call from Jesse saying that he's coming home. He's been trying to survive for the past like 2 or 3 years, and the whole time that he's been trying to survive, he's been thinking of her and getting back home to her. I literally remember not being able to put this book down because I was like, I need to know what choice she makes, like what ends up happening. I've only read it once. I can't bring myself to read it again, but I will recommend it to anyone and everyone. Okay, there are 2 more romance books in this video, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this one, Twisted Games by Anna Huang. I am obsessed with this book. I will say it's even better than the first one. No one come for me, but I swear I loved it so much more than the first one. First of all, this book is about Bridget and Rice. Bridget is a princess, and I know that sounds a little like, okay, rom-com vibes, okay, like Princess Diary vibes, but I swear it's not. It's basically a princess of this really, really small European country, and she's honestly really never liked the whole idea of, you know, being a princess. She wants to be like a normal girl, and she wants to go to college and experience everything that's like normal. If I was a princess, I'd be like, make me a fucking queen, like I don't care. So she basically goes to the US to go to college, and that is where she has a security guard and like a bodyguard that's always taking care of her, because hello, she is a princess no matter how normal she wants to be. And her new bodyguard is Rice. Yep, of course, it's a bodyguard and princess love story, but it's not really a love story at the beginning. They literally despise each other, and they go 3 years with just like the weirdest of relationship, because he is basically in charge of her life. She knows that he's there to protect her, but they don't really get along. I would say like the first half of the book is all about that, and then you get to the point where she has to go back to her European country and she has to be queen, which is something she's never wanted to do, never wanted to be. Honestly, one of the main reasons I love this book so much as like a romance story is all because of the little moments and little details that he does for her. Yeah, I loved it. I genuinely really loved it. It's about to get dark, so I'm gonna make this quick, but this is one of my favorite books of all time, so of course it's one of my favorite romances too. This is Christina Lauren's Love and Other Words. When I finished reading this book, I honestly remember thinking like, wow, I'm never going to read something that good ever again. I haven't read something like it since. Like, there is not one book I can be like, oh yeah, like it kind of reminds me of this one. No, this is honestly the epitome of what a love story is, what a romance book is, what a romance book should be. Because I've talked about some Mafia love stories, I've talked about some like super sad love stories, some rom-coms, some witty love stories, but this is what I think of. When I think of romance book, this is the book I think of. This book is about Macy and Elliot. Macy and Elliot have my entire heart. So they're next door neighbors, and they've known each other since they were 12 years old. And one of the things that I loved about it so much is that their main like interest, or I guess they're like what pulls them together when they're like little and what makes their friendship really spark, is their love for reading. I won't say too much about it, but it's basically when they're both 18 where they have this like breakup or this like huge falling out where they literally stop speaking to each other. And it isn't until a whole as decade later, 10 years later, when they run into each other at a cafe, and you basically go through the book chapter to chapter, kind of seeing how they develop the relationship when they're little to their relationship now, which is them trying to get that friendship back. This book is literally amazing. There's one huge plot twist, which you kind of expect, because there is a lot of like, there's a little bit of mystery throughout the book, which is like why, like what was the reason for the falling out. It's friends to strangers to lovers, and it's done beautifully by Christina and Lauren. I love this book so much that I literally want to show you guys my wallpaper. I just thought of another book. Honestly, if I would have remembered this book, this would have been my first book of this video. I would have mentioned this one first, but this is Julia Quinn's The Viscount Who Loved Me. Can't believe I almost forgot this. It's literally like I have this book to thank for my like romance book addiction now, because I enjoyed it so much that I just could not stop reading romance books after I finished this one. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Romance books are like one of my favorite things in life, so if you guys are like that, I hope you guys enjoyed my recommendations. And yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to my channel, definitely subscribe, and I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys really soon in another video. Bye.